Episode 2 in my Book of Questions series. Question 6. You discover your wonderful 1-year-old child is, because of a mix-up at the hospital, not yours. Would you want to exchange the child to correct the mistake? So, I think about this in a few ways. So, let's suppose that the children have gotten switched and you are going to switch them back. Well, is your actual child safe and healthy? Have these people been taking good care of it? If not, I think maybe there's an argument that you might be entitled to both of them, because they're clearly going to harm their own child. Someone else must take care of it, because they didn't know it wasn't theirs and they were harming it. So, what do you see as the solution there? If they're not harming it, I see a great potential for you guys to sort of become an extended family when you sort this out, and sort of bring people closer together. So that's my feeling on it. I think generally you ought to attempt to correct the mistake, because if it gets out that you knew after the mistake has been discovered, that can be almost as harmful as having not known that it was there in the first place, and everything going south because of it. Question 7. Do you think that the world will be a better or a worse place 100 years from now? Well, if we don't curtail climate change, I'm going to say worse. But let's assume we do eliminate climate change, because the solution to technology is very often more technology. We've seen that all throughout human history. So I figure, we're going to beat this climate change thing. And the trend of the graph has been better since humans. Because we went from Mesopotamia, and 100 years later, we were doing better than when we started it. And in Egypt, 100 years after the start, we were doing better. And 100 years later, there are dips in the graph, but the graph trends better. Think about just how good it got from 1920 to 2020. I know we've got a pandemic on, but we went through the 2 worst wars in human history, and we came out of it a better species. We had the Cold War, which brought us to a better understanding of ourselves and our duties to this planet. Every bit of hardship humanity has gone through has brought us closer to a better future. And so I think, even if 2020 is a shitty year, even if over the next few years things are going to suck, they're gonna get better. They always have, and I see no reason to doubt the trend on that. I don't know how it's going to be a better place, but I do figure it's going to be. Would you rather be a member of a world championship sports team or be the champion of an individual sport? Which sport would you choose? Now, I'm of two minds on this, because if you are a champion in an individual sport, that means you are likely one of the best in the world, or at least one of the best recognized in the world. But if you're on a sports team, on the other hand, you can be considered one of the best teams in the world. Even if you're a sucky player, you can be acknowledged as one of the best, because you are on one of the best teams. Now, if I was to pick a sport, personally, I would go with something that has not a lot of risk of physical harm, something like curling or golf or baseball, not something like, and this is going to be funny because I'm a Canadian, hockey, And I don't want to go in for a sucky sport like tennis or football. That has a large chance of being sucky and not fun, as well as hurting. Now, I apologize if you like either of those, or they're simply my opinions of those sports. But I'd say go in for a team sport if you can, or if you want to go in for a solo sport, go in for something where there's very little risk of physical harm. The other thing, if you play on a solo sport, there's a number you can put on how good you are. Like with juggling. How many balls can you juggle? That's how good you are. Can you juggle not balls like knives? Well, those are better than balls, but balls can be better than knives. Or chainsaws, those are pretty impressive, but depending on how many balls someone can get up, they might be considered better than you. There's always a number you can put on single-person sports. Whereas team sports, only the team can be evaluated, and people can make all the arguments they want about individual players, but it's they were playing better with these group of players. It could be that other players were the reason the player was bad in that particular game or in that particular season, and they might do better in other seasons. That's just my feeling on it anyway. Question 9. Would you accept $1 million to leave the country and never set foot in it again? Yep, I would. I guess I need to clarify that more because there's a little extension, but in answer to the question, yes. So let's flip to the back where they keep the extension questions. Alright. Extension 9. If you were expelled from the country and had only limited financial resources, where would you try to rebuild your life? Well, I very much doubt I'm being expelled from my home country. It's where I live, and where I was born, and where I have citizenship. But let's grant the premise that I could be expelled. Well, I would probably try and hightail it over to the UK, because they have the most similar climate and cultural environment to Canada. I know people will like to say America is better, but I would like to go to the UK if I was sacked from Canada. They're good people, they take care of you, they've got good government, as well as financial and healthcare programs, and while things might be a bit expensive compared to us, relatively, if I've got a job there and I'm working there then, after a year or two I'll probably be right as rain again. Might be sucky that I can't be in Canada, but hey, the Queen's still on my money. I'm still respected as an individual under the law and can't be legally discriminated against for things beyond my control. All around, I see it as a much better deal than, say, being forced to go stateside. Question 10. Which sex do you think has it easier in our culture? Have you ever wished you were the opposite sex? I don't think either has it easier. I think they both have it bad in different ways. Ones that can be weighed to say that one has it worse, but these are just statistical averages. There are some men, and more men than women, have it bad financially. More men die as a result of accidents every year than women. Men are not taken as seriously when they come forward with crimes reported against them, especially with things of an assault-type nature, whereas women, when they come forward to say that someone beat the crap out of them, are often believed, whereas men are told to suck it up, buttercup, or not believed at all. So that's what I'd say on that front. On the other hand, men have a slightly easier time of it because, well, we are often more willing to fight for the positions of power we want. We're more likely to demand what we feel we are owed, and we're less likely to put up with bullshit we don't like. So that's how I think things are a bit different. The other thing is, everyone is in the perfect place to see the advantage of the other side and not realize their own disadvantage. Like, I'm tall. I don't think when I reach up to the top of a shelf that's really high up and pull it down, oh, look at that, I'm tall, I can do that. I think, oh, great, I gotta do the shopping, and then, oh, I've gotta put it all away, and, damn it, I hate this. That's what I'm thinking. Or was thinking before the pandemic. When I'm in cars or on the bus, I'm not thinking about, oh, how great I'm tall, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, the seat is so uncomfortable, it only comes halfway up my back, and my shoulders are just hanging off of it, and it's just hell on earth. So, for the first part, I think both have it bad in different ways. One way that we mostly self-create as a society, the other way which is more down to individuals, but still is partly down to society as well as instinct, as well as the fact that we expect people to fight for what they want. Meanwhile, it shouldn't be expected of people who aren't fighters, to fight. So that's my opinion on that. There are some women who are like that, and also they get treated like they're doing something bad. This has been a very rambly question. So, onto the second part, how have I ever wished to be the opposite sex? Nope. I'm quite comfortable being a man, quite happy to be a man. I've occasionally wondered, because everyone occasionally wonders, like, what would it be like to be the opposite sex? But that's not really wishing. That's more a considering of a possibility. Wishing for something means that you want it deeply to happen. And I'm a man, and I'm quite happy with that. So I guess I'd be what you'd call cis. But I'm a man, perfectly happy being a man, don't want to not be a man. So for me, not really. No, I have not wanted to be the opposite sex, and for the first part of the question, I think both men and women have it bad in different ways, and both of them can't see how the other one's getting it bad. Unless you sit down and look at the numbers, and then you're only looking at it in a clinical way, which means you're leaving out the emotional aspect. And while looking at data and making laws, I think we ought to look at things clinically. When trying to consider for the sake of a question, I don't think thinking clinically with something like this is really what you want, and so I can't really do that. I can only look at it coldly and clinically. That has been this week's The Book of Questions, a book written by Gregory Stock, Ph.D., a New York Times bestseller, containing in it 217 questions plus additional at the end. I have enjoyed answering the questions in this book, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to me for this week's edition. Tomorrow we will be coming out with a Citizen Watch time-lapse. Wednesday we'll have the review, and next Saturday we will once again see my book of questions, doing questioning things. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.